You're listening to Ridecast, the podcast of the Widow Sons Ridings chapter. Any opinions expressed in this episode do not represent those of the Widow Sons Masonic Biker Association, UK and Ireland. You can reach us on Facebook at Widow Sons-Ridings chapter, on Instagram at widowsons_ridings chapter, on our website at ridingschapter.co.uk, and by emailing the show directly at ridecast@hotmail.com. Right, that's the housekeeping done. Kickstands up, on with the show. Hello, and welcome to Ridecast Season 1, Episode 4, and do we have a show for you today? Yes, we do. But first, it's my job to introduce you to myself and the co-hosts. I am the host with the most. My name is Yaka, and I ride a Honda VTX 1800. Now, my co-host number one, rumour has it he was recruited when he was in Oxford by MI6 to work as a double agent. He's now with us live via satellite link from Moscow. What does he ride? Nobody knows because he never talks about it. From Russia with love, it's Gremlin.
It's Gremlin, live from the Kremlin. Good afternoon from Russia.
Hello, Gremlin. My second co-host, he's the other half of the Honda sandwich. He's Justin Bieber, Jimmy Osmond, and David Cassidy rolled into one. Yes, he's riding chapters, heartthrob. It's Pigpen.
Good afternoon, brethren. How are we?
How's it going, Pigpen?
Oh, God. Yeah, after an intro like that, very good. Thank you very much.
I hear the fan club is building, Gremlin.
It is.
Well,
do we start with a Pigpen pal email? Or
no,
do we wait to the
we'll
very
wait till
end?
the end. We'll
but I'm just worried that Edna, aged 84, may not make it all the way through the show.
Cool. All right. So tell me, guys, in the last 4 weeks since we last recorded, what have you guys been up to?
I've been polishing my pipes.
Right. Good. I've done a little bit of polishing on the old chrome as well. Speaking of pipes, last month you may remember I told you about fitting the mustache bars. And I was a little concerned because, as you may remember, I said the clearance wasn't very good. They're actually lower than the foot pegs. Well, I can confirm they grind out very easily, especially on roundabouts. I've had a couple of times where they've touched down. And with them being hollow tubes, they don't have to make a racket. They really are noisy. It scares the hell out of Vicky every time they touch down. And on the left-hand side as well, I hit a bottom of a hill on a slight left-hand bend, and obviously the suspension compressed a little bit. So I'm kind. It's putting me off slightly. Although I do like having my feet up on the highway pegs. You know, when you're cruising down the motorway, feet up on the highway pegs, nice and comfy. But yeah, this grinding out on corners, I'm going to have to adjust my riding. I can't ride like Pigpen anymore.
Yeah.
So
well, can I just interject here? I think Pigpen, you're quite used to grinder, aren't you? Am I getting confused with that other show you do?
Yes, you're getting confused there, Gremlin. It must be the age that you get into.
It must be.
So have you done any more work on any of your fleet of motorcycles you have in your garage, Pigpen?
I have took the GSXR for MOT the other day, so that passed. That's that done. And I've just still had a bit of a problem with the VTX, the clutch. I put a new clutch in, and it was slipping still after I put it in.
Right.
So
any ideas?
Well, I took the master cylinder to pieces, and that was all blocked. So I put a new master cylinder kit in it, and it's still doing it.
It's like book of bedtime. You're turning everybody asleep now. Come on, guys.
I'm interested because obviously having a VTX,
He's on about his clutch slipping.
I think I'm down to the pipe now between the two. It's not the clutch. The clutch is fine.
It could be the oil, maybe a different grade of oil.
No, it's the return spring in the center of the clutch basket is staying out.
Right, so it's not fully engaging the clutch then.
You should do what I do.
Buy a new bike.
Garage.
Buy a new bike every 3 months.
Yes.
Oh dear. So have you been up to anything then, Gremlin, apart from polishing your pipes?
Yeah, a couple of things. In fact, a little bit of riding, because it's been so nice. I've been riding to work. I think I might get an opportunity on Tuesday to do that. And then Rule of 6 starts tomorrow, so good chance of a meet-up outdoors, 6 of us, socially distance.
And we've been making headway with our Rosalind trip plans.
We have indeed. And we've got a date now for the Ace Cafe and Grand Lodge trip as well. So that's end of July, and Roslyn is end of August. But also, I've been having discussions with my wife. She's got a Harley Davidson Sportster 1200T super low, and she wants to customize it a little bit. So if anybody wants to send in some tips about what to do, we've been looking at pipes. She's got some slip-ons at the moment. She thinks mini grenades might be too small. She's thinking the big radius, possibly. So any other thoughts apart from Vance and Hines? What would you put on a custom, or to make a 1200T super low more customized?
Yeah. Any suggestions? Ridecast@hotmail.com. Send them in. We're waiting for your emails.
I've got one.
Go on.
A Honda badge.
Yeah.
That'll increase the value tenfold.
Oh, while I'm just thinking now as well, to the listeners out there, we will be putting a post on our Facebook page to accompany this episode as per usual. So I thought I'd mention it during recording rather than have to do an overdub afterwards, which I've done in the past. So whilst you listen to this episode, head to our Facebook page, Widow Sons-Riding Chapter. There'll be a post to accompany episode 4 of Ridecast with some pictures on of what we are talking about today. So are we ready to go, guys?
We are.
Okay, segment number 1. We're actually doing a segment on motorcycles in movies. Iconic motorcycles in our favourite movies or popular movies. And we're going to call this segment...
I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle.
Okay. So who's starting then? Who wants to get the ball rolling?
Well, if you're number 1, we'll let you go first.
Okay, I'll go first. Right. I'm going way back in time. Way back to an iconic movie. The 1953 movie, The Wild One, starring Marlon Brando. And this movie actually is based on a true story. Back in 1947 or around that time, there was an annual motorcycle rally organized by the AMA, which is the American Motorcyclist Association. And they held a rally in a place called Hollister in California. It was the Gypsy Tour Rally, and they held it every year. And this was obviously, back in 47, bikes were becoming popular. It was the end of the war. And it got busier and busier every year. And this one particular year, 1947 in Hollister, 750 motorcycles rolled into the town. 2,000 to 4,000 people were there. And they called it, or rather the journalists called it, the Hollister Riots, because things got a little bit out of hand. There was a lot of drinking, a lot of drunken bikers riding around. Quite a lot of fights going on, a little bit of looting. It got a little bit out of hand, but to be honest with you, I think it was sensationalized by the newspapers. And the AMA released a statement afterwards, and this is the interesting part. This is the historical part. They said, the trouble was caused by the 1% deviant that tarnishes the public image of both motorcycles and motorcyclists. The other 99% of motorcyclists are good, decent, law-abiding citizens. So it was the 1% that were causing the trouble, according to the American...
Our Pigpen is the 99% deviant in our club.
So that is where the phrase 1%ers comes from, that the outlaw clubs... they wear that as a badge of honor. They say they are the 1%ers, and they wear the 1% diamond patch. So that's where that comes from. So Marlon Brando plays Johnny, the leader of the Black Rebels MC. Cool name. And there's a famous line from that. Johnny, what are you rebelling against? And he says, what do you got? Which is cool. But any ideas what bike Johnny rides, what Brando rides in that movie?
Triumph.
Yeah, but a lot of people think it's a Harley, but surprisingly enough, it's a 1950 Triumph Thunderbird that he rides in that movie. And there's some iconic photographs of him sat on that bike with the leather jacket and the cocked. Yep. I don't know what you'd call that type of hat, but it has the peak, and it's the classic biker look from the 50s. So that's the Wild One with a lovely Triumph Thunderbird. And when I was doing research on all the bikes in these movies that I love, it's amazing how many times Triumph shows up actually.
Yep.
Okay, who's next?
Well, The first one I'm going to talk about is obviously a bit of a love of mine, which is Harley Davidson's, and it is the film Terminator 2. So the film came out in 1991, and it has the iconic motorbike, the Harley Davidson Fat Boy. Now, the motorbike itself, the Fat Boy frame is derived from a 1984 Softail, which appears to have a rigid hardtail. And it was all to do with Willie G, the grandson of Harley Davidson co-founder William A. Davidson. He originally turned down the engineer Bill Davis' Softail concept, but the company later relented, buying the rights and designing its own Softail frame in-house. Now, the bike itself the film came out in the late 90s, and it was a 1991 model of the Fat Boy that they used, the FLSTF. And it was a massive success for both the film and Harley Davidson. The famous 1990 Fat Boy has been acquired for the Harley Davidson Museum in Milwaukee, and it still shows significant production wear from filming, and it joins a collection of more than 450 motorcycles and thousands of other artifacts housed at the museum in the Harley Davidson archives. Now, there was a famous scene when it went into I don't know if they're classed as sewers or something like that, when it jumped.
Like drainage things, aren't they, ducks?
Now, obviously, Arnie didn't do that, but the stunt man did. And it was, there were wires set up to reduce the impact of the bike hitting the ground. Because
it would have snapped clean in half, wouldn't it, from that height?
The weight of the bike would have probably would have just destroyed it. So these wires were put in place, and it made the landing a lot softer. But it was really, everybody knows Arnie for riding a motorbike in Terminator 2, and everybody assumes it is a Harley Davidson, and it is, and it's the Fat Boy.
I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle.
There it is. Sorry, carry on.
So, and it's also claimed that the famous Harley Davidson Fat Boy jump in Terminator 2 is only second to the Great Escape jump, which is probably the most famous motorcycle jump in history. So there you go. So that was my first one. Yeah, and I think you quite actually, even though you pretend to not like Harley Davidson's Pigpen, I think you quite like a Fat Boy, don't you?
I do, yeah. I think it would be a bike I'd have, but it's, again...
Sorry, I was confusing you with your grinder situation.
Way overpriced.
I was just going to say, likes a Fat Boy, does he? Right, okay.
Way overpriced as usual.
Yeah, they are.
Are they a model that you can buy now brand new, or are they classic?
Yeah, no, they absolutely can right now. There was, I think that there was an anniversary one that came out in the 2015 or 2014. The size of the engines has changed. It's now 1745 or even an 1845 engine. And it was, when it came out, it was an 80 cubic inch, 1340cc single cam Evolution unit, which was introduced in 1984. So
with 6 horsepower.
Yeah.
I think it's now 7 horsepower. You'll be glad to know.
How many front discs will that have on, Gremlin?
Hey, do you know what they have?
Got a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 2.
They have solid wheels, don't they?
They do.
And apparently can make them a little bit awkward in crosswinds, because they obviously get buffeted about in crosswinds, apparently, because they're like sails, those solid wheels, aren't they? They look good though. I like the look of them.
They do. They look fantastic.
Okay, Pigpen, give us what you've got. Give us your number one bike on your list.
Well, my number one bike is the Ducati 996 in the film The Matrix.
Ah, yes.
And I think it has to be the most iconic scene ever, when Trinity sits astride the said motorcycle.
In that leather catsuit?
That's the one. You know the scene.
I do. Matrix Reloaded, 2003. That was.
Is that the original Matrix or a different Matrix?
It's the second. It's number 2.
You see, I never saw the first one. I got a bit confused by it, and which is easily understandable if you know me.
I remember the scene well. They steal it off the top of a vehicle transporter, don't they?
They do.
They jump off a bridge. She's with the key maker.
Yeah, it was a 2001 film, but it was released in 2003.
Right.
So
Carrie Ann Moss played Trinity.
That's right, yeah. And it's a dark green 996, because a lot of that movie is tinged with a green filter, oddly enough. Don't ask me why. And they've used that dark green 996. And you know what? I was recently watching a YouTube video it's a short documentary about Keanu Reeves' motorcycle factory, because he has his own brand of motorcycles called Arch Motorcycles, and they have in their warehouse stroke factory, they have a viewing area with all the Arch models that they produce, and they're very expensive bikes. They're made to measure bikes. You order one, they measure you up and tailor it to your leg length and arm length and all the rest of it. Beautiful bikes. But in their display area, Keanu Reeves has Trinity's Ducati on display there from the movie. But it's a lovely bike.
There was a few of them. There was actually
they usually 9. Do have a few. How many?
There was 9
What's that,
bikes made for the film, and the last one that sold for £12,500.
Which isn't bad, is it, for a 996?
No, it's an old bike now, because like I say, when it came out in 2003, the model that was out then was the 998.
Yeah.
It actually moved on.
Of course, yeah.
They
went 916, didn't they? 916, 996, 998. And then 10, is it 1098? I think they're on now. Something like that. They get bigger every year, don't they?
It moved on to 11 something. And,
is it?
Yeah.
Right.
They keep altering. But there was one, I don't know, it was like a bit of an urban rumour about the original Ducatis. And it was meant to be based on a female body shape
That's right,
from above. When you look down with those iconic twin underseat.
We covered this. We mentioned it in episode 2, didn't we? Yeah. When we were doing the bike listing episode 2.
Yeah. For those listeners who don't know us all well, Pigpen does suffer from Alzheimer's, so that's why he's forgotten what we did last month.
Says you, who did the Fat Boy.
That was the very first episode.
Oh, was it? Okay. But that chase is incredible, because they're being chased going the wrong way up a freeway, aren't they, towards oncoming traffic? It's an amazing scene. Amazing.
Yeah, well, they built that freeway purposely for the film. It was
crazy.
A little bit of freeway that they actually made, and it cost $2.5 million just to build that 1 mile of road
that they used over and over that same section.
Just to be able to film that little bit in.
They must have had a lot of stunt drivers then. Must have had a lot of stunt drivers.
Really big high walls on the sides.
That's right. Yeah.
So they can't see any landscapes around, sort of thing. But
I get you. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Is it my turn again, guys?
Yeah.
Okay, so my next bike is, it's from the movie The Dark Knight, 2008. It's the Christian Bale Batman movie, the second Batman movie I believe he did, because he did Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and then The Dark Knight Rises. So this is the middle one of the 3. This is the movie that Heath Ledger plays the Joker in, if you've seen it. And
I haven't seen any of them.
Have you not? Oh, they're really good.
No,
they're really good.
They've never...
Are you more of a Michael Keaton Batman fan? Or a George
he's more of an Adam West Batman fan, is that
old? Yeah.
Shut up, Robin.
There's a new set of Batmans coming out, incidentally, with the guy from Twilight. What's he called? Robert Pattinson, is it?
Oh, yes.
And they've released photographs of him on his new bike, and no one can figure out what it is. But that's a whole nother subject. So anyway, the Christian Bale bike, there is a scene. You can't actually call it a Batman bike because he's not in his Batman outfit when he rides it in the movie. He's still dressed as Bruce Wayne, but he rides an MV Augusta F4, which is a 750cc inline 4 sports bike. Absolutely beautiful. On a par, I would say, Pigpen, with the beauty of the 916, almost. It's MV is a subsidiary company of Cagiva, so Italian. And the F4, this particular model from the movie, is designed by, any guesses, Gremlin? This is a name you've heard of before.
Armani.
No, good guess though. This is a name that you came up with a couple of episodes back. It was Massimo Tamburini. So
we all rattle our tamburinis.
Hey, Mr. Tamburini man. So this is what you would call an exotic bike, very expensive, very sleek, Italian looking, and designed by the same guy that did the Ducati 916. So it's So that's the Dark Knight Christian Bale Batman bike, the MV Augusta F4. Okay, over to you, Gremlin.
Right, well, now my second bike is a bike that I actually own, and it's from one of the films which I was actually a stunt double for, the lead actor, Rambo First Blood.
Oh yeah, you do look like Stallone, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. Anyway, do we know what bike Stallone rides when he breaks out of the prison? Out of the police station. What bike does he take?
I don't. It's a Scrambler. I know now because I've had the conversation with you. But it's a Scrambler.
It's a Honda XT250, I think.
Honda? You're Honda obsessed, man. It's a Yamaha XT250. Yes. Not to be confused with its bigger brother, the XT500, which I think somebody else might be doing in a few minutes.
Coming back to that.
So, anyway, this goes back to 1982. First Blood is a dramatic action-adventure movie starring Sylvester Stallone as the reckless, PTSD-suffering Vietnam vet John Rambo. Now, I remember when it came out, I can't remember it being called First Blood. I just thought it was called Rambo because I think that's what it was. Then they obviously brought out more films. Anyway, he's being chased by the nasty sheriff Brian Dennehy.
Yeah.
And he jumps railroad tracks and hits rocky trails for almost 3 full minutes on his bike. Even if you aren't a biker, you could tell Rambo had some serious skills that it cleanly had a sport motorcycle. Anyway, it puts it to the test, weaving around obstacles and taking the bike both on and off ride. The first generation XT, do we know what XT stands for? Well, it stands for Cross Trail. So there you go. 250s were manufactured from 1980 to 1983. I've got a 1981 XT250, well, it's actually my wife's, and have since made the Little Thumper a staple of back road riding. They had a 249cc single-cylinder 4-stroke engine with a 5-speed transmission, and with a horsepower rating of 22 HP, which is actually, is that 18 more than the Harley Davidson Fat Boy Pigpen? You'll tell me for sure. And he was able to reach a top speed of 75 miles an hour.
And I think if I remember, he's not far off doing that in the movie. He is absolutely flat out, and he's wearing a t-shirt and no crash helmet. It's terrifying to watch, but it's a great chase scene. Yeah, it looks cold, and he ends up riding up a real rocky outcrop and flipping the bike and ditches it.
Yeah.
The sheriff turns his car over and comes after him. It's fantastic. I love that movie. Brilliant movie. I was watching Rambo 2 the other day.
Were you?
Anyway,
the top speed, so from 84 to 90 and the third generation, 2008 to present generation of the XT250 is manufactured by Yamaha. The latest can only reach a top speed of 76. They haven't improved it too much. But nonetheless, the XT250 is classed as a dual sport bike for both on and off-road riding.
And they're
they are really nice.
They're 4 strokes, I take it. They're not 2 strokes.
Single-cylinder 4-stroke.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And is yours a runner, or is it...
Yes. Buzz,
are they kickstart or electric start?
One of our very own members, Buzz, actually did it up for me. We bought it as not really a scrapper, but, well, it was actually. It was horrific. Found it on eBay, and we had it renovated or restored, whatever you want to call it. Absolutely fantastic. The original colours, the traditional colours, the grey and white, and we managed to get the decals for it, and it does look superb. It is a runner.
Yeah. Is it a
Kickstart? Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the only problem with. Well, we'll go over one that you're going to go over. I'll talk about that in more detail with you because they're a right pig to start at times. Yeah. But no, they look great. Yeah, love them, and they're starting to become a bit of a collector's item as well.
Yeah, and brilliant in First Blood. Love that scene. Good enough for Rambo, good enough for me.
Yes.
Right, Pigpen, over to you for your next bike.
Well, I can't believe I'm doing it, but anyway, I looked at the film Wild Hogs.
Yeah. John Travolta.
From one bore to another.
and the 4 bikes that were in that film. Do you know what they were, Gremlin?
I would imagine if it's called Wild Hogs, they may have been Hondas. Harley Davidsons.
They're all Harleys, are they?
All from your neck of the world, yeah.
Brilliant. My favourite film.
We had Travolta. He was on the Screaming Eagle Fat Boy. Then we had, also on a Fat Boy, was Tim Allen.
Yeah, Buzz Lightyear, the voice of Buzz Lightyear, that guy, isn't he? Tim Allen.
Yeah. And then we had Martin Lawrence.
Yep.
From Bad Boys.
Yep, he was on a FXST Springer Softail.
Wasn't he also Frank in Father of the Bride?
No.
Ooh.
He was the man with the funny voice.
No, he wasn't.
He was.
Martin Lawrence. You're thinking of Martin Short.
I could be.
Yeah, you did. This guy, the guy that Pigpen's talking about is a black guy.
And then we had William Macy, who was on the XL 1200C Sportster Custom.
And remind us, what was the premise of that movie?
Well, it set off that Travolta sort of lost everything, didn't he? He was getting divorced and his life was sort of imploding. So he wanted to do a bit of a cross-country run.
Yeah. Road trip.
It's like me, midlife crisis. And what do? You buy a Harley Davidson.
So they set off on a road trip, didn't they? And they were
he gets 3 of his buddies together, doesn't he? And they call themselves the Wild Hogs. Cincinnati
to California, they were doing the ride. But yeah, I don't know, there's some other bikes and bits and bats in it, and the Orange County Chopper Boys, if you remember them on telly.
Are they in the movie?
They actually make a cameo appearance.
Ah, right. I tell you who else is in it. The villain. There's like a villain outlaw club that chases them.
Yes.
And the leader is played by Ray Liotta. Henry Hill in Goodfellas.
Yeah, well, some of those bikes that were on that side, they were done by Orange County Choppers.
Right.
And that's how they got to get the little cameo appearance.
It's a good movie.
In the film. Yeah. It's one of them sort of bit jovial, sort of feel good.
There's one of the guys I remember.
They
one
get
of the
trashed
Wild Hog
though,
guys.
don't they?
Yeah, well, one of the Wild Hog guys can't ride, can he? And he's forever crashing. He's always setting off and crashing. I can't remember which one it was, but was it William Macy? William H. Macy, is he the one that keeps crashing?
I think so.
I think so, yeah. He's the computer geek, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the gremlin of the group.
Was it stationary when he dropped it?
No, he's not that bad a rider.
Yeah, it was moving.
I've got a little bit of a niche movie here, which only total movie nerds like myself will have probably heard of, but there is a link to Keanu Reeves. It's a movie called My Own Private Idaho, a 1991 movie. It's an early movie starring Keanu Reeves and his best buddy at the time, River Phoenix, who sadly died a few years later. But it's a very art house sort of noir type movie. Some adult subject matter involved in this one. But the reason I brought it up is because there's a beautiful bike that appears throughout the movie. Keanu Reeves rides it. It's a Norton Commando, a 750 parallel twin made by the Norton Villiers British motorcycle company between 1967 and 1977. And Keanu Reeves rides this bike through the movie. A lot of open road, beautiful scenery of him and River Phoenix 2 up on this bike. And it's actually Keanu Reeves' private bike. He used his own bike that he owned for the movie. I'm not sure if he still owns the bike now, but I have seen recent footage of him riding through New York on a Norton Commando. So it might well be the same bike, although who knows. But yeah, a classic Norton Commando 750. So that's My Own Private Idaho.
Just while you're on about Keanu Reeves there, they are talking of making a Matrix 4.
Yes, they are. I heard that, yeah.
And there is a bike in that, and that's going to be the Ducati Scrambler, by all accounts.
Ah, I didn't know that must be something that's quite new, because I've not heard of the Ducati Scrambler.
I lost a lot after Matrix 1.
Yeah, no, the actual there is a bike called Ducati Scrambler. It does look quite a nice.
Cool. I'm guessing that'll have a V-twin engine in it, will it?
I just very much thought so.
Because Harley Davidson are doing a big adventure bike, aren't they? A big V-twin adventure
Pan America.
Bike. That's right. That's the one.
I am going to the launch of that in Leeds, at Leeds Harley Davidson on the 30th of April.
Looks nice. I like it. A lot of people don't think it looks a bit odd, but I quite like the look of it. It looks very futuristic with that big square front headlight on the front of the bike.
Now, if I say the following line, would you know what the film is? Some say the Captain America motorcycle is the most famous motorcycle in the world.
No idea.
You don't know what film that is?
Is it from a Marvel movie by any chance?
No, not Captain America or anything like that. Nothing to do with Marvel superheroes. Two guys. One is Henry Fonda.
I know what you're talking about. Does this bike happen to have a Stars and Stripes paint job on the back?
Yes, that's the Captain America motorcycle.
Right. I get you.
Easy Rider.
Easy Rider,
yes. Now, if you said what bikes are the ones in Easy Rider, what would you say straight away? Because it's America.
They're Harley chops, aren't they? Harley chops.
Well, they are chops, but do you really want to use the name Harley Davidson with this? I'm sure somebody will write in and say, yeah, they're either Harley Davidson, they're not Harley Davidson, because they were choppers. They were made specifically for this film, and the legend has it that Peter Fonda was involved with the design of them from the very beginning. They were actually bought from auction from, I think it was the Los Angeles Police Department, and they were taken to a very famous chop shop at the time. So they went to purchase the engines at Los Angeles Police Department auction and coordinated the building of the bikes. Peter Honda has said himself that he played a great role.
Don't you mean Peter Fonda?
Peter Fonda on his Honda.
Honda on the brain.
Yeah.
Honda on the brain.
And he's
Freudian slip there.
And he said that he built the motorcycles that him and Dennis Hopper rode. So he said
he nearly said Dennis Honda then.
Dennis Honda, Peter Honda. About four of them from the Los Angeles Police Department. I love the political incorrectness of that. And it said that 5 black guys from Watts helped me build these. A publicist for Honda said that he was unavailable for comment on this story. But the guy that built them, Clifford Vaughan, I think he's dead now, was a very famous chopper builder. Right. And these are probably the most expensive motorcycle that came up at auction not so long ago.
Well, so they're still in existence somewhere then?
Yeah, there is. There's one that's allegedly in the UK. I was speaking to a company that moves antiques around the country, and he got a particular antique to take to somewhere, and he walked into this house, and there was one of the Easy Rider choppers in there. Wow. And he said it was absolutely incredible.
Any idea what they went for at auction?
It was over £1 million. It said the chopper craze was well on the way by the late 60s, but the film solidified and popularized the form internationally. And for a time, the message the film and this motorcycle put forth, the high-rise handlebar, the American flag, the peanut tank, the panhead motor and rigid chrome frame, extended fork, skinny front tire, fat rear, that's a bit like you, Pigpen, plus the step seat and sissy bar became the right elements of the chopper in this era. So the Captain America tribute bike and the Billy bike replica plus Easy Rider movie posters are on display at the National Motorcycle Museum. So the engine is air-cooled overhead valve 45-degree V twin, bore and stroke, horsepower 52. So it can't be harder than if it's 52. Is that right, Pigpen? In your honest opinion there? It's chain drive, fork, 12-inch extended hydraulic, rear suspension rigid, wheels and tires, well, obviously it's got 2 of those, 300 times 21 inches and 5 times 16, and top speed of 95.
And they've got Jack Nicholson sat on the back.
Jack Nicholson?
Jack Nicholson's on the back of that bike, yeah. Peter Fonda rides on the front, Jack Nicholson on the back, and Dennis Hopper.
Oh, right, sorry, yeah, you confused me then. I actually haven't seen the film. I tried to find it the other day.
I've never seen it from start to finish. I've seen parts of it in bits and pieces, but never seen the whole movie. It's about
quite boring.
They're trying to smuggle drugs across the country, I believe.
Yeah,
across state lines.
Couple of spliffheads, aren't they?
Yeah. But it's a classic movie, and obviously
that's a
famous bike. Yeah. Okay, so my next bike is another classic, maybe even more famous than the Captain America. Mine is from the 1963 movie The Great Escape. Yes, it's Steve McQueen's escape from a POW camp using a stolen German dispatch rider's bike. He's fleeing from the Nazis, and you may remember the scene. Gremlin mentioned it earlier, where he's riding the bike and doing the jumps over the barbed wire fences. I think he does 3 jumps in total, and on the 3rd one crashes and ends up getting tangled up in all the barbed wire. Oh, I should have said spoiler alert there, shouldn't I? Mind you, it's been out since 1963, so if you haven't seen it, then it's not my problem. But here's the interesting thing about this bike: is it wasn't a German dispatch bike. It was actually a 1961 Triumph Trophy TR6, which is a 650cc parallel twin, and it was disguised as a BMW R75. So they bolted on a few bits and pieces and changed the colour to make it look like a German dispatch rider's bike of the period. Obviously, it's set in World War II times. I don't know why they didn't just use the genuine BMW. They must have been available, but maybe they weren't suitable for the jumps that they were attempting. Maybe they were just a bit too heavy. But here's the funny thing that I found out about this particular movie was that McQueen was a very experienced motorist. He was an amazing car driver and a very confident motorcyclist as well. And you may remember a couple of scenes where it's clearly him riding that bike. There's actually one famous scene where he rides up to the camera and brings the bike around broadside on that wet field, that wet grass he's on. And he looks, supremely confident, very in control of that big heavy bike that he's riding. Apparently, McQueen wanted to do the jumps. He wanted to actually jump the bike over the barbed wire fencing, but obviously the studio said, "No way, we can risk you breaking a leg and putting production back 6 months." So they got a stunt double, obviously, to do the jumps. During those jumps, Gremlin has told me that apparently during the stunt doubles riding section, McQueen threw on a Nazi uniform and is actually one of the German riders chasing his own stunt double.
Yep, he's chasing himself.
And the stunt jumps were performed by a stunt double, but in between takes, the rumor has it, or the legend has it, that McQueen jumped on one of the Triumph Trophy motorcycles and went off and did the jumps himself to prove that he could. Obviously not captured on camera because the cameras weren't rolling, but he wanted to prove to everyone that he could do it, and apparently he did do those jumps. So that's the Great Escape, the Steve McQueen, that again, Triumph popping up again, the Triumph Trophy TR6. Okay, Pigpen, over to you.
Well, my next film was the film called The Fastest Indian.
World's Fastest Indian.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the actual film. It is a good film if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Based on a guy called Burt Munro from New Zealand, and he was riding a 1920 Indian Scout. So Anthony Hopkins plays Burt in the film, set in 1962, and it follows Burt's sort of exploits, trying to get his little one-man band over to the Bonneville Speedway to do the
land speed attempts. Yeah.
And he's trying to get the land speed attempt for the under 1,000cc motorbike. And it follows his trails of, he gets on a cargo ship to get there, and he works his passage as a cook. And then it takes him months to get from where he lands across to Bonneville, working his way and people helping him. And he manages to get there. And
he was 68 years old, wasn't he? Yes. And he had a heart condition. So the temerity of the guy, he was, he
actually had a heart attack, and he was told not to do it. But like the rest of us, sort of avid bikers, he upped his medication and carried on, and off he went. So he did manage to get there, and he did manage to do the runs. He had loads of problems, one of which was he didn't pre-register, so they weren't going to let him actually ride. He didn't have the correct safety equipment, lots of little bits. But
he had no parachute on his bike, did he?
Yeah, everybody else tried to help out though, because they did look at him as being, poor old fella's come all this way. So the other competitors sort of clubbed in and managed to get him in and sort of made it so he could actually do a run, not really thinking, I don't think, that he was actually going to sort of do anything. But he managed to do a speed run, which was, well, his top speed was 201 miles an hour. But I think he had an actual speed of
184.087, because they have to go in both directions and they take an average, I believe, don't they? Yeah.
And I think
so that was his official. His
top speed was a 201, and that actually, the record still stands today.
No way.
Yeah, it's not been broken.
And it was a 1920 bike, wasn't it? It was an Indian Scout Streamliner.
Yeah, 1920 Indian Scout.
Available on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
You can watch Easy Rider on Netflix.
The movie. I would recommend the movie because the movie's fantastic, and Anthony Hopkins is brilliant in the role, isn't he? It's a really engaging movie.
I quite fancy the sound of that.
The bike itself is it's in a hardware shop in New Zealand on show. Yeah, in a place called Invercargill, New Zealand is this bike. He died in 1978, did Bert, but it was a 1920 Indian Scout Streamliner with 100 horsepower, 953cc V-twin. And
he set the record. Good on him.
He was a clever guy because he made his own barrels. He made his own pistons.
He cast his own barrels, didn't he? Yeah, it shows that.
He made his own flywheel. He made his own cams, cam followers. He made his own slick tires by getting a normal tire and cutting off the knobbles with a knife.
Yeah.
Sounds like the sort of a hatchet job Badger would do.
And he did have a second bike, but he never actually got a chance to take that. He had a 1936 Velocette 650, and that he wanted to take that one, but he never made it. He never made it back.
Right.
Yeah, he pretty much made the whole bike himself, really, the frame and.
I'm going to move on if that's all right, Pigpen. I've got my next bike is this is another slightly niche one, but I thought it was worth mentioning. Any of you guys seen the 1982 movie called An Officer and a Gentleman, starring Richard Gere?
Love lifts us up where we belong.
That's the one, yeah, Richard Gere.
Where the eagle flies over mountain skies.
Well done. What a voice of an angel there.
Yeah.
So this is the story of Richard Gere, who goes off to the military academy he's an officer candidate for the naval flight training.
Do you know, dearie Lord, where that naval academy is?
Oh, it'll be at some naval base somewhere in America. Do you happen to know, Gremlin?
I do. It's Annapolis in Maryland. I have been there.
You've been there? Wow.
I have.
Wow. So there is a couple of times that you see Richard Gere ride his bike in that. It appears throughout the movie. It's a lovely 1979 Triumph Bonneville. And now I can tell you that 2 were purchased for use in the movie, both bought on August the 4th, 1981, brand new. They were slightly modified to make them look, not completely standard. They put different mirrors on and adjusted the suspension on one of them. One of them was had upgraded suspension because it was made as sort of a stunt bike. I would imagine at some point in the script there were some small jumps or something he was going to do. I don't know why they would have upgraded the suspension. And one was left as a road-going version. And now I was looking into these bikes. They're still in existence. One of them is on display at Planet Hollywood in Orlando, Florida. The other one I stumbled across on an auction website where it had been listed back in 2014 for sale on this auction website. It was listed for only £11,000 and it was a genuine bike ridden by Richard Gere in the movie. I don't know what it went for because it was a private auction and it has since disappeared. So some collector has bought that bike up and who knows what's happened to it. Maybe it's being ridden. Maybe it's in a garage somewhere under a dust sheet. But those are the Triumph Bonnevilles, 1979 Bonnevilles using An Officer and a Gentleman. Right, moving on. I've got we couldn't do this list without mentioning a few Bond bikes, could we? So I have got 3 very quick Bond movies to mention. Number 1 in my Bond list, For Your Eyes Only, 1981, and this will be a bike close to Gremlin's heart. This is a Roger Moore Bond movie. And in this movie, there is a motorcycle stroke ski chase. Okay, so Bond's on skis and he is being chased by a pair of henchmen and they are riding Yamaha XT500s. And they've got spike wheels on, machine guns on the side of the bikes, and they're chasing Roger Moore's James Bond on these bikes. And interestingly enough, one of the henchmen in this movie is Tywin Lannister himself, from Game of Thrones, Charles Dance. He's a young Charles Dance, and he's one of the guys on the XT500s. Good scene.
And he's the one at the end that actually picks the bike up and throws it.
Does he?
No, that's the Russian.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, so that's the For Your Eyes Only
wonderful motorbike.
The XT500. And Gremlin's got one in his collection.
I have.
So what were you going to tell us about the 500?
Bloody difficult to start at times because of the compression. And it in the film, they just show them waiting outside a florist when James Bond goes in and he sees the female star walking around, and they just quickly kickstart the motorbikes and off they go. It probably takes me about 10 minutes to get mine started because you've got to get the compression right and then start it.
So there are
brilliant
500
motorbikes.
There are 500 single.
Yep, thumpers is the known.
So do they not have a compression valve then to ease?
Yeah, they do.
They do. So.
But also, if you look down to your right-hand side, there's a little barrel, and you have to line up like the mercury in the middle. And once it's there, the compression's right. But you
give it a big kick, the biggest kick you can give it.
But I actually bought that motorbike because I thought they were fantastic, and the film was one of my favourite Bond films, and I just love those motorbikes.
So you've got the 250 and the 500.
Yeah, I tried to get one that turned the indicators into machine guns, but I couldn't find those parts anywhere in the internet.
Okay, so next Bond movie. This is Tomorrow Never Dies, 1997. This time Pierce Brosnan plays Bond. This is just an honourable mention very quickly.
Sounds like it's a BMW coming along.
It is, yes. You might remember the scene where Pierce Brosnan is handcuffed to the Bond girl and they jump on a BMW R1200C, which is the cream-coloured BMW cruiser bike, I suppose you could call it. It's still a boxer engine, the standard, R1200 boxer engine, but it's a lovely looking bike, and they are chased. Am I right thinking they're chased by a helicopter in that movie? I think they're chased by a helicopter, and they're riding. The girl is sat on a sort of across his lap, facing backwards, and he's facing forwards. They sit that way around because they're handcuffed together, and that's the BMW. And we have a chapter member who owns one. Our own VP. Gary 2Rs has the BMW R1200.
He actually just had it MOT'd this week because he's going to be riding it.
Do you know if it went through all right?
Yeah, it went through fine. He's 12 years old, 20-odd thousand miles.
And a Bond bike. And finally, another one I wanted to mention very quickly, GoldenEye. Anyone remember GoldenEye? 1995. I think that's Pierce Brosnan again. There's a scene at the beginning of the movie where it's lots of snow scenes in these movies, aren't there, these Bond movies? This is a Russian base, and there is a scene where Bond blows the base up, basically, and he's being chased by all the Russians, and a unpiloted plane goes off a cliff, drops away out of sight, and Bond jumps on a Cagiva W16, which is like a scrambler adventure bike, 600cc motocross bike, and he chases after this plane, rides the bike off the cliff, bins the bike, and skydives down to this plane, skydives into the plane through the door, jumps in the pilot seat, and flies away. It's absolutely crazy, but it's a great scene. But that's a Cagiva, and interestingly enough, at the beginning of that scene, it's supposedly a backflash, if you like, and it says, back in 1987, and he's riding this Cagiva, which didn't exist at the time. So he's riding a bike in that scene that wasn't made for another 6 years. So a little bit of a continuity error there in the movie. So those are the three motorbikes that I liked. I mean, you've also got the Spy Who Loved Me, Torpedo Z, Kawasaki Z900 with the sidecar with the torpedo on, and there's just loads of motorbikes that are used in scenes in the Bond movies. But I didn't want to go.
Well, do we know the name of the new Bond film that didn't come out last year that's coming out this year?
No, what is it?
I can't remember. It slips my mind. However, there is a motorbike chase in that, and I think it's Triumph Scramblers they're using.
Right, cool. Now, there's only one more bike I wanted to mention before. This will be the one we finish on now, and this isn't an iconic bike. It's an awful bike, really, by anyone.
It's a Honda VTX.
No, it's not. It's from the movie True Lies. So we've gone full circle. We're back with Schwarzenegger, Arnie Schwarzenegger, 1994, True Lies. Fantastic spy movie. What have you got there, Pigpen?
The new film, No Time to Die.
No Time to Die, yes.
So, True Lies, 1994. There is a scene in this movie you may remember where Art Malik, who is a British actor who plays the villain of the movie, steals a Kawasaki GPZ 500S, And he does a runner on this bike, and Schwarzenegger steals a police horse and jumps on a horse and chases him. There's a pursuit with Schwarzenegger on the horse, Art Malik on the GPZ, who rides the bike through a hotel foyer, through a shopping area, ends up riding the bike into a glass elevator and goes up. Schwarzenegger jumps in another elevator on the horse. They end up on a rooftop of a building, and the scene finishes with Art Malik jumping the GPZ from rooftop to another skyscraper rooftop and landing in the swimming pool. And it's a GPZ 500. They're awful. I mean, I shouldn't make fun because there are probably listeners out there that own them. They were very popular with dispatch riders back in the late 80s. My dad had one actually, but they're an inline twin 500, and they're just, why didn't they pick a CBR 600 or something for that scene? I have no idea. Maybe it was because they couldn't fit one in the lift. But yeah, honourable mention for the GPZ there. And we're all done. Right then, guys. So our next segment is again about, well, it's sort of linked to movies. We thought we'd stay on the movie theme, and we are doing actors. But this time they are actors who also happen to be Freemasons. So
they're Masons. By the square, by the level, by the plumb rule, by the compasses, and by the all-seeing eye. The craft, Danny, the craft.
And that's from the movie The Man Who Would Be King. That was Michael Caine, in case you didn't recognise the voice there. But so we've got famous Freemasons who are actors. And I'm going to start off. I have a chap by the name of Vass Blackwood, who's a British actor. You may have seen him early on in his career on the Lenny Henry show. Do you remember Lenny Henry did a character called Delbert?
Yes.
He used to go totally wicked. Well, he had a sidekick by the name of Winston. I don't know if you remember that, but that was Vass Blackwood who played Winston on that show. He also, Vass also appeared in Only Fools and Horses. He was a long-time star of Casualty, played a character called David Sinclair. But I know him, and you will probably know him from Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels.
Never seen it.
Oh, man, you've got to watch that movie. It's so good. He plays a character called Rory Breaker, a gang, because it's all London gangsters, and he plays this London gangster who's a bit of a psychopath. But he has a famous line in the movie where he says, "If the milk turns out to be sour, I ain't the kind of pussy to drink it." But he's also Worshipful Brother Vass has appeared in the Sky documentary Inside the Freemasons, and he's on that with his provincial gear on, so he's obviously a provincial officer. I couldn't find out any information. Obviously, the fraternity being what it is, fairly private. I don't know which lodge he's a member of, and I don't know when he was initiated, but very open and proud to be a Freemason is Worshipful Brother Vass. So that's my first actor, British actor, Vass Blackwood.
Well done. Like that. Yeah. Well, I'm going to move on to both of mine are American. They're both dead, so they were actors. But the first one I'm going to talk about is a very famous actor who was born in 1907 in Cadiz, Ohio. And if you've said the phrase, quite frankly, I don't give a damn, would you know the film?
Scarlett O'Hara, what's the Gone with the Wind?
Gone with the Wind, and the actor is Clark Gable. Now, the reason why I like Clark Gable and why I want to speak about him is fantastic actor, Freemason, but also a wartime pilot. And I live in a little village called Tockwith, and during the World War II, Tockwith had an airbase, and it was an American airbase, mainly Americans stationed here. And it was known as RAF Marston Moor because there's a top cliff further up the A1. So they didn't want to confuse the two with Tockwith and Topcliffe in case it got confused over the airwaves. So it was Marston Moor because Tockwith's very close to the historical battle site from the English Civil War of Marston Moor. And Clark Gable was stationed here in Tockwith at RAF Marston Moor. So there you go.
World.
In World War II, he was a second lieutenant in the 8th Air Force, resigning with the rank of major. Now, from a Masonic point of view, it says he was raised in Beverly Hills Lodge number 528 on October the 31st, 1933, having received his other degrees on September the 19th and October the 17th of the same year. He died on November 17th, 1960. But I think really perhaps his most famous film was the one we've spoken about, but he was in so many other films. Mutiny on the Bounty, Strange Cargo, obviously Gone with the Wind, The Hucksters, The Wide Missouri, Lone Star, Mogambo, Soldier of Fortune, and Idiot's Delight. So there you go. He received the award Oscar of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences for his role in It Happened One Night, and that was in 1934. Brother Clark Gable, Oscar winner, stationed in my little village, joined the war.
Awesome.
Very
wow,
good.
what are the chances of that? It's a small world, isn't it? And he was a proper old-time silver screen megastar, wasn't he, Clark Gable?
He was.
Yeah. Okay, Pigpen, what do you got for us?
I'll start off with Brother Roy Rogers.
Had a horse called Trigger.
Oh, that's the fella. You'll remember him first time round here, Gremlin.
I do.
Is he the guy that used to say yippee-ki-yay?
No, that was, you'll find that was, what's his name, from
Bruce
the
Willis.
Thingy-majiggy films.
Bruce Willis.
I've got Pigpen's Alzheimer's. Death Wish. John McCabe. John
McClane from Bruce Willis. But he said yippee-ki-yay with a colourful expletive at the end. But didn't he steal that from Roy Rogers, though? The yippee-ki-yay?
Don't know. But also, not to be confused with Trigger from Only Fools and Horses.
Anyway, sorry, Pigpen. We interrupted you a little there.
That's all right. Born in 1912 in Ohio, he was formerly a singer. Was his background? So yeah, he starred in 89 westerns. A member of the Hollywood Lodge, number 355.
Is that 355 in normal letters, figures, characters?
355. I guess that would have been a lodge full of actors, wouldn't it? Full of actors and movie producers and directors.
As a Hollywood lodge, and I thought it would have been
that
right
business
up there with with that sort of business in first, especially at that time of years when it was very much silver screen was the big thing of Hollywood, wasn't it?
Yes.
We have, if I can just interrupt, we have a lodge in the UK which is very similar to that type of thing, full of actors, producers, directors, screenwriters, and all that sort of stuff. People involved in that business, and it's called
Lassells.
No,
4796, based out of Wetherby.
No, no, it's called Chelsea Lodge.
Yes,
you may have heard of it, but we'll circle back to that on my next actor. So sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, go for it. That was
you've done your Roy Rogers there, have you?
Yeah, fast.
Brother Roy Rogers.
Interruptions.
Yippee-ki-yay. Yippee-ki-yay, Roy Rogers. And the horse was called Trigger, was it?
Yeah, trigonomics. It was his mathematical horse.
Trigonometry. Yeah, well, that ties in with masonry, doesn't it? Okay, so my next actor, Brother Peter Sellers. Ever heard of Peter Sellers? He was well known for being one of the goons with Spike Milligan and
sounds like the three of us.
Yeah, the goons. Spike Milligan, Peter Sellers, and who was the last guy?
Michael Bentine.
Michael Bentine, that's right, yeah. He was also known for movies, Ealing comedies such as Lady Killers, but most prominently for his role as Inspector Clouseau in Pink Panther movies. There was about 5 Pink Panther movies.
Not now, Keto.
Not now, Keto. But he did. This is a line that I always remember. There was a scene where he was with a guy, an organ grinder with a monkey on the top, and he turns to this guy and he says, "Do you have a licence for your minky?"
Yes, for your minky.
Your chimpanzee minky. There's also a famous scene with him as Clouseau where he says, "Does your dog bite?" And the guy goes, "No, monsieur." And then he goes to pet the dog, and the dog bites him. And he goes, "I thought you said your dog does not bite." He goes, "Monsieur, that is not my dog." But he was also in Dr. Strangelove. He played that Nazi scientist in Dr. Strangelove. Comic genius, apparently. He was thought to have been the biggest comic genius since Charlie Chaplin. He was initiated into, you guessed it, Chelsea Lodge number 3098 on the 16th of July, 1948. And rumour has it, allegedly, he attended only 3 meetings at Chelsea Lodge. Guess what those meetings were?
His first, his second, and his third degrees.
There you go. That's the rumour. Yeah. And he was married. One of his marriages was to Britt Ekland, who was a famous... was she Swedish? Or she was a model anyway. Swedish model. And unfortunately, brother Peter died of a heart attack at the age of only 54 back in 1980. He'd suffered from a heart problem for 15 years. And he was a little bit of a... he was a bit of a rock star, really. He liked his fast cars, his fast women, and he liked to drink and didn't look after himself. But by all accounts, a comic genius. And I love Peter Sellers. I thought he was fabulous in the Pink Panther movies. So there you go. That's brother Peter Sellers. Who's next?
Well, I'm going back to America to a brother larger than life who has the first name Marion Robert Morrison, better known as
John Wayne.
John Wayne. Now, what a larger-than-life character is the Duke. And the Duke was a Freemason.
Wow.
He got his first degree July the 9th, 1970. He was a Freemason like his father before him. And it says, receiving his craft degrees in July 1970 in the Marion McDaniel Lodge 56 in Tucson, Arizona. He also joined the York Rites bodies in California and became a Shriner. Now, I've heard the phrase Shriner quite a few times, and I'm sure it's associated with Freemasonry, but I don't really know in what sort of the way that they are together.
It's a side order, as far as I'm aware.
Right.
The Mystic Shrine of the something or other.
And he became a Shriner in the Al-Malachite Shrine Temple located in Long Beach, which also, if Pigpen had been doing his homework properly, that's where Brother Roy Rogers was. And both cowboy actors.
He didn't write it.
Who didn't write it? I think if you read it through, he was a member of the Al-Malachite Shrine Temple. So there you go. But for me, can anybody remember his name of the movie and his character where he got his Oscar?
I'm going to say True Grit.
Correct.
Rooster Coburn.
Absolutely. What
Love
a
that movie.
fantastic film that was.
Fill your hands, you son of a bitch.
There you go. So John Wayne. There was a song, wasn't there? John Wayne is Big Leggy, or somebody sang that in about the 80s or something. But he is one of the all-time greatest actors with a woman's name and a Freemason. So over to you.
This is Richard Dreyfuss. You may remember Richard Dreyfuss playing the lead character of Roy in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He also played... That's the one. You're going to do the sound effect for my next movie as well, please. He played Hooper in Jaws. Yeah, he played Hooper, the ocean, whatever you call it, oceanographer. He was also
needed a bigger boat.
Gonna need a bigger boat. Yeah, he was also in American Graffiti. He won 2 Oscars in his career. He won a Best Actor in a leading role in 1978 for a movie called The Goodbye Girl, which was a sort of romantic comedy. And he won his second Oscar in 1996 for Mr. Holland's Opus. He was also in, I love this movie. Anyone remember Stakeout in 1967 with Emilio Estevez? Love that movie. What about Bob with...
Bob Hope?
No, the actor from
Bill
Murray from Groundhog Day. He was in that with Bill Murray. Apparently,
Wild Hog Day.
Groundhog Day. Apparently they had a bit of a falling out filming that. But here we go. So he was actually a Mason. He was made a Mason in 2011. He was attending a Masonic banquet celebrating 200 years of the Grand Lodge in, where was it? District of Columbia. Now, the Grand Master was there at this Masonic banquet. Richard Dreyfuss was giving a speech about his charitable foundation called the Dreyfuss Initiative. And the Grand Master made him a Master Mason by sight. I'm doing finger quotes here. Made him a Master Mason by sight, which apparently is a power that many jurisdictions have for a Grand Master, where a Mason is made at sight. It's the power and prerogative in many jurisdictions of a Grand Master to declare a man a Master Mason with an abbreviated ceremony without having to attend a first, second, or third degree ceremony. He also made him a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason on the spot. So I'm guessing it's the equivalent, you know, how universities will make an honor, you know, give somebody an honorary doctorate. It's the same sort of thing as that. And it is a power that grandmasters have, which has been dated back to as early as the 1730s in England. Right. But apparently it's not, obviously not done very, very often. But Richard Dreyfuss was made a Master Mason with I guess, the click of a finger and a wave of a hand and a very short ceremony, and he's a Mason. So there you go, Richard Dreyfuss.
Do you know if is he an active Mason, or is
I don't know if he's ever attended any lodge meetings. I would imagine he probably has.
I haven't seen him at Harlow.
No. And I mean, if he's going to go anywhere, he's going to go to Harlow, isn't he?
How was I to know you were a Mason?
Email corner.
That sounds like the Millennium Falcon starting.
You love it, don't you? It's my jingle. Okay, so
Chewbacca out there.
Right, so who's got the first message? Has anyone got anything for us?
I do actually have a message. I would like to say get well to one of our members, John Triple B Fisher, who's had a heart attack. Yes. So get well, Trip.
Yeah, take care, Trip. Quad. He apparently he listened to episode 1, 2, and 3 in hospital, and it cured him of all his problems. So the medicinal
he was high on morphine at the time. He said it's the best thing he's ever listened to. But I tell you, if you're on morphine and pethidine, anything's good to listen to.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to know, his road name is Triple B, stands for triple bypass, and you know, all being well, we won't have to change his name to Quad. That's the
or angina.
Yeah. Right. So, have we got any messages, any emails, anything from anyone?
Yes, I would like to say a quick shout out as well to all the blood bikers. We have a new candidate for Riding's chapter, Brother Lawrence, who is a blood biker, and they do a sterling job across the country. So, big shout out to all you blood bikers. You do a great job.
Not to mention our ex-president Compo is also a blood biker. So
yes.
Hello to Compo if you're listening.
Yeah.
Right, I've got a message here. This came across on Reddit. I'm a Reddit user, as you probably know. On the Freemasonry sub, I posted a link last month to our last episode, and we received a comment from somebody called Zoshu. So Zoshu commented quite simply, brothers, he put down brothers at their finest. So thank you very much, Zoshu, for that message. Very kind of you.
He certainly won't be saying that this month. Okay, right. John favoured us on Anchor FM. So John is an Anchor.
Thank you, John.
Oh, Jonathan on Anchor FM. And I've got an email from Marty re Vincent Motorcycles. Hey, Ridecast, check out the Batman Forever movie with Val Kilmer. Bruce Wayne shows Robin around his car and motorcycle collection at Wayne Manor. Robin, played by Chris O'Donnell, spots a pair of Vincent Black Knights. So it's official. Batman rides a Vincent. So thank you, Marty.
Black what were they? Black Knights.
Yeah, Vincent Black Knights.
Which is interesting because Batman is the Dark Knight, isn't he? So the Dark Knight on a Black Knight.
There you go.
That's why they use them. We didn't cover Black Knights, did we, in our episode about Vincent? I don't recall talking about them. I have to look them up. What have you got, Pigpen?
We have an email off Byron. He says, "Dear Pigpen, Gremlin and Yakka, I think that many people's perception of bikers, especially when in large groups, is that we are scary and unapproachable. Given that you guys are not only bikers, but are also Masons, how do you feel the public perceives you when you are out and about?"
Well,
so,
Pigpen's scary, isn't he? He's quite scary and unapproachable.
Yeah. Gremlin's riding's scary. So yeah,
but very approachable.
No, but he makes a good point. Byron, you make a good point, because when we're out in a group of 15 or 20 of us and we're riding around on the big noisy bikes and we're wearing our cuts, I could see how some people might find us slightly intimidating. But when we park up and we get off our bikes and we go in and we order waffles and ice cream and cups of tea, we're not so scary anymore, I don't think. And I think we're fairly approachable, don't you?
Yeah, we are. Also the fact that we've got Masonic emblems on our cuts. People who are Freemasons will know that we are Masons. I actually went to, before lockdown last year, the Royal Horticultural Society, Harlow Car in Harrogate. Tess and I rode there. We had our cuts on. I had my cut on, and an old boy came up to me and said, "Hello, I'm a Freemason, and I can see you are too." So, people do find us approachable if they know what we are.
I had a similar thing happen to me on the way home from a ride one day. Me and Vicky popped into the local Tesco's near where we lived, and we were wandering around, picking up a bit of shopping on the way home. And I heard a voice behind me say, "Hello, brother." And I turned around, and there was a chap behind me. He'd obviously spotted the symbols on my cut, and we had a little chat. So he spotted, the Masonic stuff. The general public, I think some people are aware of that square and compass symbol, aren't they?
Yep,
and
they are.
But most people are quite happy to see bikers, because they're interested in the bikes, and they like to come over and have a look around. But the older chaps love looking at the bikes, don't they? And the kids, we had a ride out to Goathland once. I was with Alien and a few other guys. Can't remember who was with us that day. And there was a family there at Goathland Station. And for those of you that don't know, Goathland Station is the station that they used in
Heartbeat.
It's in Heartbeat, but that station, the railway station's used in the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah,
it's the Hogwarts station or whatever. So we were there doing, taking some photographs for a post on the Facebook page, and there was a family there with a few kids, and they came over and wanted to chat with us, and we sat the kids on the bikes and started the engines up, and they were revving the engines. And I think it's good that we're getting masonry out there out there to the public. There aren't many opportunities for Freemasons to get out in public and say, we're the Freemasons, this is who we are. And I think the Widow Sons are the front line there, really. We're out in the public, riding around and meeting people, aren't we? So exactly. I think we come across as very friendly.
Yeah, I've got another email, unless anybody else wants to go first.
No, go ahead.
This is from all I have to say, it's now known as the Pigpen Pals. The postman's sack is getting fuller every month with fan mail for our very own Pigpen. He is the pensioner's heartthrob. I've got one here. This is from Edna. She's 84 from Enfield. And she says, PP, as I like to call him, is my favourite. I think he gets bullied by Gremlin, and I think Yakka's nasty to him as well. If he'd like to come around to my nursing home, I'll make sure that he has a wonderful night with me. Well, Edna, he's all yours.
Oh, that's lovely. What a lovely invitation.
That's sweet. Well, thank you very much, Edna. I would be more than happy to pop round.
Your little PP.
Bless him.
I'll pop round. And you are right, Edna. Gremlin is a complete.
We're not that bad to him. We just do a little bit of fun poking now and again, but trust me, he's a big tough biker.
Edna mentioned the word poking, but I think she was talking about something else.
Yeah.
I'll be coming over to Topcliffe and giving you a poking, Luggle.
Get yourself round to Edna's, have a nice bit of Victoria sponge and a hot cup of tea. You'll love it. Yeah. It's what we live for, isn't it? I've got a message here. Basically, it was just a message from Worf. Everyone knows Worf. Oh, yeah. He's another widow's son, and he's been sending me messages just saying that he's enjoying the show. He's finding it very informative and good fun. And I just wanted to mention him and say, cheers, Worf. Thanks for your messages of encouragement.
I've got another one here. That's from brother Ian Price from the newly formed Widow Sons Surrey chapter. He wants to know when the Ridings are planning our trip down to Ace Cafe, as the Surrey chapter would like to meet us there.
Excellent.
So, hot off the press, we can tell you now. It will be Friday the 23rd of July and or Saturday the 24th of July.
Yeah, and if we can get Iceni as well to meet us there. In fact, open invitation here to any chapters that want to meet us down there. Iceni are nearby. Surrey chapter are planning to come up and meet us. Ridings are on their way down. If anyone else wants to get, let's have a big Widow Sons gathering there. Not too big though, because we don't want to upset anyone, and with social distancing or anything. But we're well outside of the restrictions there, aren't we? And so
like July. No, it'd be nice to have a
little get together. Get 20 or 30 of us there
together.
Excellent.
Well, easy, yeah.
We could bring the Ridecast Red Show down and do a live segment.
I will definitely record a segment while we're down there and interview a few people, and that'll be good fun.
Edna, a date for your diary, July the 23rd.
Yeah, Edna, and what were the other ones? Vera, was it? There's a few of them anyway. He's got this fan club building now. I don't know how he does it.
I know.
I've got another message here from our very own Badger, who wants us to do a segment on close calls and mistakes, which I think is not a bad idea, because we've all got.
He had a very close call putting that seat on his bike.
Dear oh dear, keep it clean, Gremlin. Keep it clean. You're giving me more work to do. I think he's talking about riding mistakes and riding close calls. Yeah. But what I would like to do is I'd like to send out an invitation to any of our listeners who have a good story about a close call or a funny mistake on a bike. Email it in, ridecast@hotmail.com. Send your stories in. We'd love to read them. If you want to do it anonymously, that's fine. We won't read out any names, but let's hear your stories and we'll do a segment and include your stories.
Oh, I've just had a text come in talking about... Oh, it's from brother Richard Dreyfuss. He said he had a close encounter once.
Right, guys. I think we're all done, aren't we?
I think so.
Well and truly done.
Stick a fork in me. I'm done. Right. So I'm going to say thanks to everyone for listening. We will catch you in 4 weeks' time on episode 5. This is Yaka signing off.
Good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
All right, we'll catch you all in a few weeks, guys. Bye-bye now. Bye.
Good night. See you later.
Bye.